Hi, I'm Claire. I'm the CEO and founder of Greendroads. We started off because we realized that pollution, traffic, road accidents are at a level, and we wanted to do something about it. So the way that we thought to address this issue is to actually using big data and basically addressing the situation by understanding the use of road space. And we do this using very simple off-the-shelf cameras. Could be a security camera, could be any device that is used in a control room that is not being monitored. And we just use our AI to identify the different types of vehicles. This is an idea of how the solution works in the background. So it tracks pedestrians, cars, different types of trucks, different types of buses, understands where pedestrians are crossing, potentially identify areas of conflict, and help create information that is fully GDPR compliant, because we don't care who it is, we don't care who it was, we just care about the mobility type and how it's behaving on the road, the speed at which it's moving, and how the different modes are interacting together. And this in turn is very useful when it comes to urban planning, when it comes to addressing areas of commercial space. For instance, it could be used in car parking lots. It could be used to identify, for example, this car here on the bottom right has just turned into red because it's not parked in a designated parking spot. So the user has a dashboard. It's all intuitive. It's all can be set by the user themselves. They can choose whether a vehicle can park there, or whether an alert would be set after a certain amount of time. And the system is all based around API, so it's very easy to modify and to download reports. And of course, this is only part of the ecosystem. We understand that we don't work alone, so it's important for our system to work and to integrate with other solutions via APIs or via downloadable reports. So we're at a stage where we've got the product ready. It's been tested. We've got the local infrastructure authority on board. We've also tested it in Trento. We've received very positive feedback. And we're at a stage where we need to look beyond. We need to have more use cases. We need to understand how our solution is going to better address real-world problems and how it's going to fill in this market gap. And right now, we're thinking about smart cities. We're thinking about private areas. We know that the current technology is more addressed around car-centric data. So these pneumatic tube sensors, in most cases, are addressing only, and of course, then that's how we end up with roads which are designed primarily for cars instead of pedestrians, instead of bicycles, instead of being conducive of active modes of transport. And the way that we're targeting the market is we don't necessarily approach the municipalities and the cities directly, but we want to work with urban planners. We want to work with economists, with advisors who are in a position to recommend return on investment and better use of public and private space. Could be used in airports, could be used in restricted areas, could be used in parking, and even commercial. So it's very well known that nowadays we've got space, and space is so precious, especially in city cores, and we need to make the best use of it and to preserve safety and other needs we've gotten so far, thanks to the help of EU funding. So we're very lucky as a startup as well. We managed to secure Horizon 2020 funding, and we're also part of Climate Kick. Now we're also part of the Investment Readiness Program. That's how I met Stewart. That's how I got invited on this call as well. And we're also recently been accepted to be part of the Deutsche Telekom's accelerator. So we're going to be receiving introductions in Germany, and basically we've managed to get so far, I think, without any equity. And this is partly also because of our team. having been a founder myself before and having worked in business, I understand the importance of having the right people. So this was a non-negotiable to get the best people on the islands. Basically, Johan is a serial entrepreneur. He's the CTO of the company. He has had an exit as well before. Adrian is a leading professor in AI in Malta. And Andre is a bit of a combination in between entrepreneurship, diplomacy, political science, and quantum physicist as well. And then we've got, he brings a bit of aspect of the different negotiations and how we can apply things from a more practical point of view. Kenneth is more based on the transport. He knows all the technology, he knows all the ecosystem and how we should fit in. And Lewis keeps us grounded by getting there faster, and his engineering mindset is very helpful when it comes to driving us. We're raising equity. We're also recruiting clients. So this is a turning point for us. We've got a solution which works, which is up and running. And we want to invest now in our marketing, our sales, getting our customer experiences, our stories right, and being more market ready, which I think right now we've been too product focused and not so much market focused. Having said that, we managed to get so far thanks to first clients like the European Commission who believed in us through Horizon, and the local infrastructure authority was actually willing to onboard us even before we had a working solution. That's it from my side. We want to work with people who believe in a better world. We want to make this happen. We've gotten so far since 2018. We've been working on this. So on to you to reach out. We want to build a non-executive board as well. So it's a very, how do you say, we're either going to make it now or so it's about that.
Thank you for that, Claire. Thank you. Could you just go back one image before I ask Tiana for the first question? Raman, is that Bristol? I swear to God, every time I see that photo, that is Bristol near the where the aquarium used to be. What do you reckon? Am I imagining things?
Yeah. That definitely is Bristol. It's not Dominic. That definitely is Bristol. Down towards the aquarium, the watershed on the left hand side.
It's a harbour side. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't think I was going completely crazy with that. No, thanks for that. All right, Tiana, the honor to you. What's the first question on this one?
Thanks to you. Congratulations, Claire, on all your achievements developing this technology and also obtaining the grant. As you also mentioned, you've been product focused. I guess that was needed in order to develop something amazing as this. But apart from the solution, we always need to consider the problem. Actually, often we start from a problem. So in order for us to understand and you to create a roadmap, so what would be the top 3 problems, but really specific problems you would like to focus on in the future? Because from that point on, you can think who would be the ideal customer, and then like research the market, etc. Maybe also even fine tune some features. So if we could identify top 3, but really specific problems that you would like to address based on the solution, you know, probably way better than us. And also if you can match those problems with some example of specific data you can show, because we haven't really seen a specific example of data of metric that the application is sharing in each of these cases. So like we have a problem and which type of data is useful for solving that particular problem. Maybe a couple of examples like that would help us understand, and also, as I mentioned, I think it will help you focus on the following steps.
Okay, so the problems that we're addressing are limited space. We've got the need to have better urban planning. We have the need to have safety, road safety. There's also issues of security. So this is mostly applicable for roads, open spaces, and any area that needs to be managed. And the different types of movements need to be addressed and monitored in an autonomous way. It's no longer feasible to have security guards 24/7 looking at the screen. but you need to have alerts so that these people can focus their attention on where you need them to be. So if, for instance, there is an anomaly which is being repeated, a breach of the certain regulations, certain codes that you've inserted, you receive a notification, and then you can send the officials on site to address that infringement. If it's legal parking, you know that in particular hours, people are more likely to park and to be blocking the road unnecessarily, and hence impeding the flow and the natural movement of vehicles. Over here, I'm showing this image because this is one of the first use cases that we had done locally. As you can see, the top image is the old road, how it used to be before we implemented our technology. And we realized that these are the pedestrian movements. All these orange lines here indicate how pedestrians are moving in a given space. And with this, the authorities were in a better position to identify that pavements need to be improved on one side of the road. On the other side of the road, they didn't necessarily need to have a pavement. So instead, they inserted a cycle lane. They brought the bus stops closer together, and hence also improved by adjusting a zebra crossing where people needed it. And this is very powerful because, of course, it helps to, one, justify infrastructure costs, because infrastructure is very expensive. We're talking about millions that are spent in road design. And essentially, the way that we experience a country, the way that we experience a city, is by how we interact with its open spaces, how we move from one place to another, because otherwise it's just private property or shops that we're visiting. So it's very important to have this dynamic flow adjusted for all the different modes. And maybe in some areas you want to have low emission zones. We had an inquiry which we're addressing recently, in fact, from one of the localities which has a lot of through traffic. And we're doing this installation to understand how many vehicles are commercial which are using the area just to pass by. And hence they're affecting students walking to school or people cycling in the area. So when you have a lot of commercial vehicles which don't need to use that road, but they're bypassing the bypass and they're passing through a residential area, you end up with a lot of unnecessary pollution and unnecessary burden on the infrastructure. And this is where we're coming from. This has been our primary focus so far in terms of the problems that we're addressing and the solutions that we're using in order to bridge this gap.
Okay, thank you. This definitely helped with all the details. So what would be your then really top one problem and ideal customer in the next period?
The ideal customer would be an urban planner who also sees eye to eye with us, because data is as powerful as how you use it. We don't just want to provide this tool to public employees who might use this well or might not use this well. But if we're working with people who can guide and use this data in order to direct with better planning and better use of infrastructure space, that would be my dream. That would be what we want to achieve.
Sounds amazing. All the luck with that. Thanks, Claire.
Great questions and great answers. You're using nearly all the time, though, so we've just got time for Ori to ask her question. I see you've been clapping there in the background. Ori, what do you think of this and what's your question?
I think this is mind-blowing. You guys are such a cool cohort this time around. My question is, what partnerships have you considered outside the urban planning space? I'm specifically thinking about one of my areas of focus is medtech. We've all just come out of the pandemic where tracing what people were moving and congregating was really important. So I'm interested in hearing what you've explored there. And equally, from a kind of retail point of view, at the minute, the technology that we have isn't quite as good as it could be. So again, I wonder if you've explored those avenues for continuous growth.
So in terms of partnerships, so far we've spoken to some insurance companies and telecoms. Telecoms, of course, they're in a good position because they're going to benefit from us implementing this technology because it justifies them selling more connections. Also, providers of that's how we got in partnership with Deutsche Telekom. In fact, we're on board on their tech program, which essentially allows us to use their infrastructure to process the cameras and to also introduce us to their clients. In terms of retail, this brings me together with this with Tech Boost program. They've also introduced us to. They're also in the process of introducing us to one of their petrol stations leading in the area. Why? Because the service station, they need to understand which are the most used, which are the least used, and how can they optimize the flow and try to direct drivers or try to direct people to use less busy stations so that they can optimize the infrastructure that they've got and sell more. Same thing with one of the local telecoms, which was interested in understanding the impact of billboards they do. So advertising potential. When you advertise on Google, you would essentially get all the stats. But when you put up a billboard, you don't know exactly who has passed in front of it. It's not just a question of counts, it's also a question of how long they stay. So if it's a highway, the slower it is, the better it is in terms of people having time to actually read the advert versus you just pass by and you don't even have time to look up and to read what's written. And then you cannot address what type of advert you want to do. Do you want to do just branding, or do you want to go the extra mile and write some more information about this offer that you've got to reach? So it also helps to address not just retail, but also from an insurance point of view. So from an insurance point of view, it's interesting to know which are the areas where accidents are likely to happen. It can also help with the vehicle to infrastructure eventually, and infrastructure to vehicle, because that's going to be an important part. Right now, there's a whole issue about the standards that are being defined. It's still early days, but I think we're at a good place, at a good time to actually bring out our solution to even affect decisions that are taken. For example, there is a cyclist passing here. We know that the cyclist and the car cannot see them, so we'll inform the car that the cyclist is coming just around the corner. So ahead of time, they're aware and they can reduce their speed or adjust how they're moving.
All right, thank you very much. We'll call time right there. Brilliant, Claire, as always.